But the Indian rubber man, because when I hit the ground in India, I would bounce. But I realized very early on in my career, touring India, the longer you spent on the ground, the more layers of skin you lost. So as you hit the ground, get up to throw the ball. And pretend it's like a part of the motion, but all you're doing is self-preservation, really. Literally. Standing up so you don't lose another layer of skin. And my teammates would often look at me and I'm bleeding from my elbows. It's coming through my trouser on my knees. That area's, it's also bleeding. And the guys would say, Johnty, the ball would go past me to the boundary. And I was still diving for the ball. And they said, Johnty, that's a TV dive. What are you doing? It's a TV dive. You would never have reached it. It's just so your mother can watch you at home and she can tell her friends, oh, did you see my son? Look, he's bleeding. No one else is even dirty. And look at him. Isn't he wonderful? But I'm this short. These big men, South African fast bowlers, don't like to dive around. They do it these days, fortunately. But for me, the whole philosophy was that freedom to fail. Because I would rather dive for the ball and miss it than not dive for the ball and wonder afterwards, I wonder if I could have caught that or stopped that. And one of the stories that I relate to that is 2003 Cricket World Cup. South Africa hosted it. Not for very long. We read the fine print. We didn't read the Duckworth-Lewis rules, but we read the fine print in 2003. So we hosted it and we let someone else take the trophy. You guys didn't do that. The first match was against the West Indies. And what we had done in the build-up to the World Cup, we had planned where we would like, plan A. It wasn't, as I was saying, it doesn't always go according to plan. But if we won the certain matches, we would end up here in the playoffs and we would play against these other teams. So we were trying to sort of find a path that would get us to the final with the least difficult opponents. So the first match we identified against the West Indies was one of the most important games for us in the tournament. We wanted to win it desperately. We lost the game by 2 runs. First match of the World Cup. So we're not out the World Cup by any stretch of the imagination. We've just started it. But Brian Lara, remember that guy? He could play a bit too. He got 100 at that World Cup match. And I remember sitting in the dressing room at the end of the game. And you can't see at the back here, but I've got some fingers that go sideways because the cricket ball hurts a little bit if you get it wrong. And I was sitting with my finger in a glass of ice because 3 days later we had another match and I had bad swelling on my finger. So Brian Lara had cut the ball and I dived for it, fully extended, and it just clipped the end of my hand. Now when the ball hits your hand, it stings so much that you grab it. But it hits the end of your fingers, you haven't got much chance to get anything behind the ball. So the ball hit my fingers and it went for 4. And I kept thinking in the dressing room, we lost by 2 runs. There's the 4. If I had saved that 4, we could have won the game. So this 2 inches was the difference between me getting the ball on the end of my finger or me catching the ball in the middle of my hand. Not catching the catch, but just stopping the ball from going to the boundary. And then after 10 minutes, because I always gave myself 10 minutes to pack my bag up and leave the good with and the bad. Regardless of the results, you've got to put it behind you and focus on the next day ahead. But leave that behind. And I sat in the dressing room thinking, if I had been here and didn't need the ice, if I had stood at backward point and watched the ball get hit past me, then I would have been really upset. Because then I would never have known if I could have stopped it. So that freedom to fail was certainly my philosophy at practice, but certainly in a game. Thank you. Turn the lights off now, please. Whoa. Now we can turn the lights off. Okay. But turn this one off so I can't see. So that freedom to fail for me was really an incredible part of my process because I would rather dive for the ball and miss it. Dive for the ball and drop it. And as a fielding coach, I do exactly the same. I know there is no such thing as an easy catch. The wind could take it. It could go straight into the lights. It is difficult. Players pick it up late. But I look at the process. Was he ready? Was he thinking about something else? But if the players are sitting there thinking, I'm not going to dive for the ball because Johnty's going to mark me down if I drop it, then I haven't been very successful in my encouragement in getting people to go beyond their comfort zones, being prepared to make a mistake and learn from that mistake. Hey, listen, making the same mistake day in and day out, expecting a different result, well, that's just stupid. But you're not stupid. You wouldn't be here if you were, that's for sure. So you know that. But be prepared to test new boundaries, to take yourself out of your comfort zone and see what can be achieved. Because you really will be amazed if you just give it a go. Because until you go, you'll never know what I tell my players. I think what's interesting too with regards to Carpe Diem, seizing the day and seizing the moment, is that there is so much change. And again, it kind of comes back to less about the plan and more about embracing what's actually taking place. Because if you look around you in the environment that you're in, at the college, in the country as a whole, and globally, change is the one constant. There is always a constant state of change. Nothing is ever standing still. And there are different ways that you can handle change. And I've seen it on the cricket field. People turn their back and say, that's not for us. We don't do things that way. Other teams will go, man, that's a great idea. Let's do that. But then you're only keeping up with the opposition. Because they're the ones who've been innovative. They've come up with the change. Do you guys know what changed cricket? T20 cricket. Right. No, it wasn't. 1996 Cricket World Cup. Do you know who won the 1996 Cricket World Cup? They changed the way cricket was played in 50 overs. They had these two little opening batsmen, Sanath and Romesh Kalawutarana. Now everybody else in world cricket, everybody else had a formula. You bat first 15 overs, you build a platform. Maybe you lose one wicket. Then the middle overs, you push it a bit harder, lay the foundation for the onslaught at the end. For the last 10 overs, you swing as hard as you can. You must have wickets in hand. The Sri Lankan guy said, hold on, but in 1992, we tried that. I think in 92, the only team they beat was South Africa. They came last at the World Cup. 1996, 4 years later, they were the world champions. Now to put things in perspective, if you're playing for the Indian team, in 4 years you'll probably play 200 matches. Sri Lankans back in 1992, in the 4 years, probably played 20 matches. No one wanted to play Sri Lanka. There's no money when you play against Sri Lanka. There's no big market. They don't have many international stars. No one wants to see Arjuna Ranatunga walking between the wickets. So how did Sri Lanka go from being the bottom of the log to top? They changed the way the game was played. But they had the backing of the whole team. They told Sanath and Romesh Kalawutarana, if you see the ball, hit it. If you're aiming for a long off and it goes over third man, no one's worried. Scoreboard doesn't tell the story. Scorebook doesn't tell the story. It says boundary, it says sixer. If you see it, hit it. Suddenly the rest of us, who's a pinch hitter? We've got to try and find Pat Simcox for South Africa. You're someone who hits the ball hard, but not consistent like Sanath and Romesh. So Sri Lanka changed the way the game was played. The rest of us, that's a great idea. Let's try and do the same. We were too late. We were behind it. So if you embrace the changes that you see around you, that's great. It shows you're open to new ideas. But to be the best and to strive to be at the top of whatever you're doing, you have to be the initiator of that change. You want people trying to emulate you. Because I'm her father. Yes. Okay, last thing. Because I'm afraid ex-cricket players are like politicians. Never give us the microphone. You don't get it back. We talk and we talk and we talk. Okay, the last thing. I talk to my team where I'm coaching that one run can make a difference. One run can make a difference. Because I've seen it. It can change the result of a game. In the 1999 semi-final against Australia, South Africa against Australia, Lance Klusener batting with Alan Donald. Anybody can remember that game? For us it was terrible. We did not lose the semi-final. There wasn't a super over in those days. We tied the game with Australia. Same score. They went through on superior run rate. They then beat Pakistan in the final. So no guarantee that we would have beaten Pakistan. but it would have been our first final of a World Cup. We tied the match with Australia. One more run was all we needed. 2003, that World Cup that we hosted not for very long, we didn't read the fine print about the Duckworth-Lewis. It says to tie the game, the score must be 127 after the 18th over. Mark Boucher was batting with Lance Klusener. Murali was bowling. He's a useful bowler. By this stage, I'd broken my finger in the World Cup and I've been replaced, so it's not my fault. I'm not taking any responsibility. It's their fault. Anyway, Mark Boucher's batting. The ball before, he hits 4. He hits Murali for 4. But because the Duckworth-Lewis, when you lose a wicket, it readjusts the target required. So the score that he thought he had got to win the game was actually to tie the match. 1 ball left of the over. He blocked it. No run, no wicket. But Sri Lanka just needed 1 point from the game. We needed 2 to go through. Sri Lankans were ecstatic. South Africa were out the tournament. 1 more run. Didn't lose the game. We tied the match. 1 run is an important aspect of cricket. 434. Anyone remember that? Australia scored against South Africa. 434 is not a bad score back then. It was a world record. No one had ever scored that, let alone think about chasing it down. Anyway, South Africa scored 438 and beat Australia by 1 wicket with 2 balls to spare. Mark Boucher's batting. Herschel Gibbs that day, 175. Graham Smith got 90 off about 60 balls. But every player that came to the wicket, duck, 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 out. Duck 4, duck 6, out. It came down to the last over. Brett Lee, you heard of Brett Lee? He can bowl a delivery pretty quickly. And the ball that we've been using has gone for 430 runs already. So it's a bit scuffed. So you don't have to use anything, no assistance required. There's reverse swing. So the ball is very scuffed. Hits the stadium, hits the roof, it goes onto the road, they bring it back. Ball is very scuffed. Ball is reverse swinging. Now I'm working for the bank that's the sponsor of the competition. It was a 5-match series, 1-day series. South Africa win the first 2, but Ricky Ponting is injured. He comes back. Australia win the next 2. It's 2-all in the series. And Australia score 434. I think half of Australia, or all of Australia, went to sleep because they're 8 hours ahead of South Africa. They went to sleep thinking the series is won. Didn't give anybody a chance of chasing that down. And as the sponsor, I had to give the trophy, was going to give to Graham Smith, and I would give to Ricky Ponting. Not a happy thought as a sponsor, as an ex-player, someone who used to fight a bit with Ricky Ponting. Anyway, we get down to the last over. Andrew Hall, all-rounder, is batting with Mark Boucher. Boucher's on about 40. Andrew Hall, he's facing Brett Lee. The first ball of the over, he hits it over mid-on. It goes for 4. The next ball, he tries the same thing, and he's caught. Now, we have 433. We need 1 more run to tie the game. We are 9 wickets down. Mackay and Tini is walking to the crease. Number 11 batsman. For a reason, he's number 11 batsman. Not for his sparkling personality and his big smile, but for a very particular batting reason. And I got dropped from Test cricket for 2 years. I had a very good outside edge. It's effective in 1-day cricket because you can run it to third man and run fast. But in Test cricket, when there's 2 slips or 3 slips in a gully, not a good shot. So for 2 years, I worked on my technique, got back in the game. But I know an outside edge because I used to play it a lot. So when Mackay and Tini tells the boys afterwards how he glided the ball, let me show you. He says he glides the ball from Brett Lee at 145 kilometers an hour, reverse swinging like this. He glides it to third man. We get the 1 run. Now the scores are tied, so 434. Mark Boucher then hits the next ball for 4. And Mackay and Tini, the boys are hugging in the middle, Boucher and Tini, and Mackay and Tini's smile is as big as this. But now he's bowled his 10 overs for 90 runs. Like the worst figures of a South African bowler ever in the history of the game. So he's had a bad day at the office. He was the ICC number 1 bowler at the time. He's had a very bad day at the office. So I asked him afterwards, because the teams come down, they're all jumping on Boucher and Mackay and Tini. I said, Mackay, why are you smiling so much? He says, no, Joe. He called me Joe. No, Joe. My one run, it won the game. I said, what do you mean? I said, there's 438 on the scoreboard. What do you mean your one run won the game? One doesn't add up to 438. He says, no, but Joe, if I was out that ball, Australia win by one run. So I sit there and I go, yes, you're right. In a game of 434 versus 438, it was Mackay and Tini's one run that made all the difference. And seizing the day, what I want to finish off with, and the reason why I bring it up, seizing the day isn't always about seizing the day for you. It's about seizing the day for your community, for your college, for your team, for your family, for the environment that you find yourself in. When it becomes seize the day for you, it doesn't live on through other people. And I've seen that one run. Too often we think, what's the point of getting involved? In a country of a population 1.2, 1.3 billion, give or take? 100 million or two? So what's the point of me? What is my contribution? What's the difference it's going to make? There's 1.3 billion people. What's the point of me getting involved? It's the government's job. It's the director's job. It's the professor's job. It's my father's job. It's not for me to get involved. Because if I get involved and I put in some sweat and I put in some effort, it probably is not going to make any difference. And I'm here to tell you, one run, your contribution makes a very big effort to what's going on around you, a very big contribution to what's going around you. So to end things off from my side, my take on Carpe Diem is not about seizing the day, but more about embracing the day. Because then I'm including everybody around me and trying to make it a better thing or make it successful, not just for myself, but for everybody who I come into contact with. So remember that. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you. Sounds much better when it's Sachin, but I'll take it. I would please like the lights up, because before I hit the road, we've got a big game tomorrow, and it's a 2-hour drive back to the hotel. I would love to take some questions, because I'm guaranteed I'm not always going to hit the mark 100% of the time to everybody when I'm delivering a talk. So if we have got time for some questions, is there a facility to do that? Do we have a microphone? Is there anybody, or people want to shout? Have we got time for questions, or am I being presumptuous? No one wants to hear anything else I've got to say.
That was a truly awe-inspiring and motivating
speech. Okay, alright. Ow, man.
That's it. I'll do it. And now we'd like to announce a question and answer session.
I seize the day! See what happens when you seize a day. You take somebody else's thunder. Embrace the day. Don't seize it, just embrace it. Yes, sir. Carry on.
Amongst the several registrations that we've received, we have chosen a select few.
The first question is from Akash Mani.
Good evening, sir.
Hey, Akash.
I'd like to ask you, what was the most memorable catch that you've taken in your career?
Okay, the most memorable catch of my career. I really am, as I said, a man without a plan, which also then means you have very selective memory, because every day kind of then gets quite full. If you embrace the entire day, I don't remember what happened yesterday, because I'm pretty much in the moment and what's happening. I would get to a stadium, and Sean Pollock was the captain, and he'd say, man, you remember that day you came here and you scored 15 runs, but it was a valuable 15, and you took that catch. And I'm going, I don't even remember coming to the stadium, let alone doing anything on the ground. So when I'm in the day, I'm totally embracing it, but the next day is just as exciting, it's just as full. So I'm not, unless I'm learning from the mistakes of that 3 years ago when I dropped that catch. So for me, my most memorable catch, the one I remember the most, is when I caught Sachin Tendulkar. It was in a one-day international game, and I'll tell you the only reason why I remember it, because every time I come to India, I get reminded, that catch, the ball bounced. Ball bounced! Not out, Sachin. So it was in Durban. The ball was hit to my left. I dived full length. And in South Africa, we learned to catch the ball reverse cup because the ball generally travels above our waist. So, and like a goalkeeper, I dived across and I caught the ball. So you obviously can't see whether it's hit the ground because my hands are over the ball. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I remember listening to the highlights. Jeffrey Boycott was commentating. And he was like, I would never walk for that. Sachin, he had no problem. The umpires had no problem. I mean, there were 2 local umpires, so it helped for me. No one had a problem with it. But every time I came back to India, people, during my 9 years of the IPL and now my first season with the TNPL, I get reminded of that catch that they say it bounced. So that's the one catch I do remember. I do remember a day in Mumbai at Brabant Stadium at the ICC. I took 5 catches in one day in a game, which became a world record. I did not even know there was a world record that existed because fielding wasn't really, well, I suppose it was actually very easy to be the best fielder in the world. I was the only fielder in the world. No one else was fielding. They were all just fetching the ball and throwing it back. So my most memorable catch, the one I remember the most, is because every time I come to India, people remind me about the Sachin Tendulkar catch. Other than that, it was the 5 that I managed to hold on to on a very sweaty, humid day in Mumbai against the West Indies in a Hero Cup match in 1993. So 2 of them were very easy, 3 were diving catches. But it was a good day at the office for me, for sure. Thanks, Akash.
The next question is from Neet Surati.
Hello, sir. Fielding at backward point is never really easy, and you have been the best at it. How did you maintain such high level of concentration throughout the course of the 50 overs of Test match?
Yeah, I think the key with regards to fielding, I mean, you might have noticed a big smile on my face, not because I was thinking, if I'm smiling, the cameras will come to me, endorsements will flow, money will be in my pocket. I was loving, as I said before, apartheid era South Africa. I grew up, no country to play for. I was enjoying every single day in the field. I loved fielding. That was the simplest thing. So what that allowed me to do was firstly work at my fielding. So in the build-up to the matches, as a team, the South African team was fairly athletic. We had some good fielding guys on our side. Nobody we had to hide. So as a team, we were a good fielding unit. But I was someone who just loved working on my fielding. So I would go down and I would practice my fielding without it feeling like it was practice. But what I'd also do in the game, though, I expected every single ball to come to me. So I'm glad I didn't play 20 overs. That's only 120 balls. At least 50 over match. It's 300 deliveries where there's the opportunity that I could field the ball. 90 overs of a test match. The Australian team used to bet which over of the day I would stop running after the ball. Because the 90th over of the game, I'm still running to fetch the ball at deep mid-wicket on the boundary, even though I'm fielding backward point. So what allowed me to be consistent in my performance on the field was a number of things. Firstly was the practice, was the fact that I played so many other sports and I was pretty good as a fielder. But the third and most important thing is I loved fielding and I wanted every single ball to come to me. So when the ball was hit, I was ready. And that's what I was speaking about. The worst thing is to have an opportunity and not be prepared for it. So my only hassle with Carpe Diem is you could be seizing the wrong moment. Embrace what's going on around you, and then whatever comes, you will catch it. Okay, thank you.
The next question is from Anushka Singh.
Hello, sir. My question to you is, has there ever been a moment in your entire career where it seemed like the success was yours, but maybe you weren't personally satisfied with it?
Understand the question. I wasn't satisfied with, even though there was success.
Maybe you thought that you could have something more to it, like contributed a bit more to make that success bigger, maybe? Something like that.
Sure. I think with regards to success, and as a cricket player, what is the ultimate success? As a team, winning a World Cup for sure. As an individual, scoring test match hundreds and averaging 50. My average was very, very average. It wasn't average, it was 35 in one days in test. It's not me trying to be funny. It was an average. And I think the key for me was success was never then summed up in terms of statistics. Because cricket, unfortunately, these days, because a lot of it's on television, wherever you look, and even dot balls now get in the scorebooks, and a lot of it is score related, whether you're batting or whether you're bowling. The one thing that always, I think, allowed me to relax and enjoy my contribution, whether I was successful or not, was that when you stop a ball that's going to the boundary with a good diving save, it doesn't help my score. If I've batted and I'm out for 15, it doesn't go up to 19 because I saved 4. Alan Donald, who's bowling, or Sean Pollock, who's bowling, and he bowled a bad delivery, if I save 3 of those in a game, it's 12 runs. So instead of him going for 50 in his 10 overs, he's gone for 38. He's had a good day to office. The team has had a good day because that's 12 fewer runs that we as a team have to score. And I think the key with my success was because my batting average was average, I was never going, I must raise the benchmark. I mean, I really wanted to make a contribution. I felt successful if the rest of the team had a good day and I was the one who had contributed towards that, not with the scores. Okay, because as I said earlier, when you hear the interviews, the team, the guy that's won the man of the match, he's very happy to have won the game very happy to have made a contribution, allowed the team to win the game. So my contributions were never the match-winning ones. I mean, they never were. It was kind of the smaller scene, behind-the-scenes successes, I think, small little wins that allowed the team to be successful overall. So I never really felt satisfied whether I had been a man of the match very occasionally or whether the team had lost on the day. I mean, because of the process that we were working on, we always felt like we had more to give or we had something to learn from the experience, whether we won or lost. And again, those stepping stones and stumbling blocks. It's always easier to learn from other people too. So if I've been successful in a game, it's probably the best time to find out about your weaknesses, because then you're not feeling a bit sensitive. Whereas if you failed and the coach comes and sits next to you, you kind of know what he's going to say. You just tell him, oh, go away. I know I didn't play very well. But when you've done well on the day, you've won man of the match, and the coach just sits next to you and goes, hey, hold on. Just, maybe this wasn't quite right, or you could have done this a bit differently. Then you're more prepared to take it in. So success just depended, I suppose, on what you determine success is. For me, it was never defining it as man of the match, winning the game, winning a World Cup. It was just out there making a difference to the 10 other players around me. So I felt like I was successful just by having a smile on my face. So it was quite easy. Sorry. Not too sure I was successful in replying to that. Okay.
The next question is from Akshay Ravi.
Yeah, hi, sir. My question is, different sportsmen have different superstitions that they believe in. Do you have anything along those lines?
Yeah, I think that successful sportsmen, or most sportsmen, do have various sorts of superstitions. But when it doesn't work, then they try something else. I was so unsuccessful, I eventually ran out of ideas. So I had all these superstitions, and then it didn't help. So I threw that one away. I tried another one. That didn't help. So by the end of my career, I was just fresh out of ideas. No, I'm joking. No, not really. I think, again, I mean, there's some... We had a player, Neil Mackenzie, used to bat for South Africa, who... all the toilet seats had to be put down in the dressing room. So if nothing could, bad luck would escape or whatever it was. He couldn't walk across the line. He had to touch. It's actually too ridiculous to even try and work out. You see some of the Sri Lankan guys, they touch about 40 times before they bat. Sanath Jayasuriya did pretty much the same. He used to make us as an opponents very irritated, because often the bowler was ready and Sanath is on number 37, 38, 39, 40. Okay, now I'm ready to go. So no, I didn't have any particular... My laundry got washed. I didn't have lucky underwear or lucky socks, fortunately. Everything got washed clean every day. So no superstitions when I was playing. Maybe I should have had more superstitions. then I would have been more successful. But no.
The next question is from Ravi Ramesh.
Hello, sir. You have been amazing on the field and you have taken some unbelievable catches and effected some brilliant dismissals in the form of runouts. How did you manage to maintain the consistency in your reaction time to catches?
Yeah, I think with regards, I spoke about Virat Kohli facing Dale Steyn. You know, we've all got, if you're playing at international level, there's no one person who's faster than anybody else from a reaction time point of view. I mean, all of us, all the people who play at that sort of level, and whatever sport you're playing does require pretty good reaction time. But the key there was that I was practicing like a match situation. So I wasn't just practicing having the ball hit to me underarm gently. I would put up 2 goalposts and tell Gary Kirsten, I reckon you can't hit the ball past me. So it always became a contest. So my practicing was almost like a match situation by making it a contest between me and my fellow teammate. So it was all about the intensity and I spoke about perfect practice, making perfect. The reason why I was taking catches in the field, affecting those runouts, was that I was practicing like I was in a match situation. Make sense? Cool. Okay, we're done.
And the last question is from Ayush Kakkar.
Hello, sir. There are a lot of players currently at Lords, and their YouTube channel has been conducting a survey, asking them about their all-time 11. Could you list yours?
What is my, sorry?
All-time 11. Could you list your all-time 11, if you...
Well, definitely no Johnty Rhodes in any 11, that's for sure. I'm not even going to go. I tell you that the problem is that I'm an old man. I have seen a lot of cricket. I have played against many talented players. I've coached some incredible players. So to try and choose 11 in different generations, it's actually impossible to compare. I mean, you really can't compare people from 15 years ago who played the game, who might have retired 3 years ago, but had the bulk of their career 20 years ago. The environment has changed, the game has changed. So for me to choose a best 11, I mean, I've probably 3 of the players batsmen who I played against that I used to love making sure that they were out or watch them on television, not watch them from backward point. Sachin, Ricky Ponting, Brian Lara, for me were 3. And then, you know, from a bowling point of view, we grew up with pace bowlers in South Africa. In fact, the World Cup in 1992, we did not even have a spin bowler in our squad. There wasn't a spin bowler. We had pace bowlers, and that was it. So for me, it was quite difficult to make the transition from hard bouncing wickets to playing against spin bowlers. So Shane Warne and Murali were two of the bowlers that would tie me up quite easily and get my wickets. But just from all round determined and angry and gutsy, Steve Waugh for me was an incredible player for Australia. I don't even know if he would make anybody's World 11, but because he's got something that you don't easily compute and it doesn't add up on the scorebook. But that guts and determination and just will to be successful and win the game for his team was something that very few people I'd played against or played with ever had. So, yeah, I mean, six international players and so many incredible players who I played with and against. Impossible to choose 11. It would take me forever, and I would get it wrong anyway, so I'm not even going to go there. But listen, everybody, thank you for having me. I really do appreciate your time. I know you've got busy years. I couldn't believe I drove up the road here. Kids were leaving school at 6 o'clock in the evening. So academics is a big thing in India. To have got here is incredible. It really is. Don't just seize the day, embrace it. Embrace the opportunities that come your way. But when you're embracing it, it's because it's affecting the people around you too. It's not just about you. Have fun. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, sir. I now request the director to present a memento to Johnty.
We also request Harsha, a student of the architecture department, to present a portrait to our esteemed guests for this evening.
Where is Harsha?
And that concludes this wonderful guest lecture of Festember 17. We wish Johnty and the NIT Trichy Warriors all the very best in their future endeavors, and we hope that everyone gathered here had a great time.
We hope that this event set the tone for Festember 17, and we hope to see you all again soon. Thank you.